So, I wanted to talk about how Asa Mitaka might actually be one of, if not the most relatable female character in manga that I personally have ever experienced. She's relatable on multiple fronts. Not only is she relatable to female readers, obviously, but she's just a relatable character in general, and I think that has to do with the approach that the writer of Chainsaw Man, Fujimoto, takes to writing his important characters. I also want to talk a little bit about the impact that a lack of well rounded characters of a certain type can have on a group of people of that certain type. And I don't want this to be a video about, writers must have representation of a particular group if they have a character of that particular group in their manga. And I don't want it to be a situation where people believe that I believe that you must, write characters who are of a minority group in a specific way, even in a way that is pleasing to that group, right? I think that that is a stifling of creativity if you demand that. But I do want to touch on the impact that the lack of well-rounded characters of a certain type can have on viewers if they're not being given satisfactory options in other places, right? So anything I say in this video, don't take it as me saying that that is what must be done. All I want to do is appreciate the occurrence of it in Chainsaw Man by the writer Fujimoto, because it is something that was and is a constant, pleasant surprise to me with the way that he approaches writing his characters, and not even just his female ones. Now, a very easy way to get into the mind of Fujimoto and how he's able to write these female characters that are so compelling, and not even, he doesn't write female characters of one specific type. They're not all, girl boss characters, Mary Sue characters. They have all different types and flavors, just as male characters tend to have. And this is best demonstrated in one of his interviews that he had with Shonen Jump. So I believe in that interview, he said that he tries to write characters that are interesting regardless of their gender. And that he wants female readers to feel like they can relate to his female characters. Now, this mindset is clearly evident in Chainsaw Man with the way that Asa Mitaka is handled and written as a main lead for this manga. She is a character that is appreciated by both male and female characters. She's a character that is well-rounded, that has a lot of character depth. She has sad moments, she has happy moments, she has badass moments, she has moments where she's completely useless, right? But most importantly, Fujimoto is showing the audience that yes, this character is a character of complexity. Now, why is all of this something to take note of? Why do I care? Why am I making this video? Well, I'm a Gen Zer, and like many other Gen Zers, we grew up in the United States, we grew up on Toonami. We grew up on shows like Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball, One Piece. As we got a little older, we started watching, the new generation of big threes, like, I don't know, Attack on Titan or something. I watch other manga, I read and watch other mangas and animes besides the popular shonen stuff, but those are just the ones that I want to talk about because those are the ones that usually have this issue with their characters. But one thing that a lot of female manga and anime readers and watchers of my generation ran into was that as we got older, as women watching anime, we kind of became increasingly distant, I guess, from the majority of the action anime genres. And initially, you might believe that this issue is simply due to our gender. Women just aren't as interested in these kinds of stories. We're more interested in the romance or in the, sports anime for dubious reasons, or in just other animes, slice of life and things like that. We're just not interested in the action stuff. But if Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen and Attack on Titan are anything to go by, you'll know that a lot of women really, really do like anime, right? And me growing up in the Black community, in the African community, a lot of Africans, a lot of Black people also like anime as well. So these groups of people that you would traditionally think are relegated to only certain categories within anime and manga. So like with the Black community, a lot of people say the Black community is only really into stuff like Dragon Ball, Bleach, Naruto, and stuff like that. With women, like I said, slice of life, romance. But like I said, with the big animes coming out now, the big action ones, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, that is just not the case when you look at the audience numbers, at least in the US. And so I was thinking earlier, why is it that these groups of people are viewed as not having interest in anime and manga when they quite clearly make up at least a proportional or size of the audience? And then the conclusion I came to was that, like I said earlier, it is not a must that a writer must include representation, must include diversity, must make people of a certain demographic happy or pleased by the character that they see themselves in, right? But the overwhelming prominence of characters of a specific type whom are mere plot devices, or are mere stereotypes, or are merely fan service, can lead people of that group, so the topic of this video is female anime fans, the overwhelming prominence of those kinds of characters without options in popular anime and manga that are more relatable to us on a personal level. The lack of those and the overwhelming prominence of the stereotypes, the fan service, the pure plot devices, the pure useless characters, right? Female characters that just have no depth of complexity to the way that they were written. The overwhelming prominence of that can make us feel, eventually, that writers believe that there is nothing to write about in female characters, right? And that can end up making us feel alienated from certain categories of a genre or certain genres entirely, right? When you see a bunch of male characters who are written in all types of shapes and sizes with varying degrees of complexity, it makes you feel like, well, these male characters are for the audience, and the audience is for men. And it can leave a female viewer feeling like, okay, well, these genres just aren't for us. Let's go look at something else. But Fujimoto made a conscious effort, whether that be because, like he hilariously said, his parents read Chainsaw Man, so he doesn't want to do anything that's awkward or could upset them, or if it is for his own motivations. I think it is. If you read Goodbye Eri, you will see that this is a guy who takes great care when he writes his characters. He understands humans very well. He understands human emotion very well. And he's just a great writer when it comes to characters. I think it is of his own volition. He made a conscious effort to ensure that Asa Mitaka's storyline offers a refreshing alternative to the common pitfalls that we see in female manga characters all over the place. It could have been very easy for him to continue Chainsaw Man with Denji being the main character. But he chose to construct a never-before seen, she was not foreshadowed in part 1, I believe. He chose to essentially redo part one, kind of, not really, but kind of, but from the perspective of a female who has now become possessed by a devil. And while there is still, like I said, fan service, some sexualization, some moments where she's completely useless. Actually, she's pretty much always completely useless now that I think about it. But that doesn't matter. The occurrence of those things is not the root of the issue. There's a lot of fan service in Chainsaw Man. There's a lot of sexualization, but none of it serves the explicit purpose of just having a character exist for that reason, right? Human beings in real life sexualize people. Human beings in real life can be stereotypes. Human beings in real life can be useless. None of these things should be things that should be gone from your stories, right? What I want to appreciate is that Asa Mitaka has her own well-rounded personality. She's not a carbon copy of any other character in Chainsaw Man. She has her own unique experience, her own motivations. She passes the Bechdel test. She talks to other female characters about things that are unrelated to relationships and whatnot. She is not a one-dimensional character, and that sounds so simple, but I'm telling you, it's not. It's not that common across many forms of entertainment, but across manga especially. Now, I'm not here to insult any other writers. As you've seen, there are examples I could have given to some of the claims I was making earlier, but I left the writers and the other properties that do the things that I don't like out of it. All I want to say is that these pitfalls that writers commonly fall into can occur for a number of reasons. In some cases, it might be a conscious effort to do that to a character, but most of the time, it's not conscious at all. I would never fault a male writer for writing a male main character, nor will I fault him for writing male characters with more intimacy and care than his female characters, because he's not a woman and maybe he has some anxiety writing a female character. Maybe he just doesn't know about the female experience and he just stays away from it. It's totally reasonable for a female writer to write female characters with more care and intimacy than she writes male characters, right? But what I want to say is that stereotypes, fan service, and plot devices have their place. However, when these issues, these pitfalls, these tropes become too prominent to the point where they become the main representation of a category of people, right? When they become shortcuts to define female characters, it can make female viewers feel like they're being represented in a limited or superficial way. Fujimoto strikes that balance between writing relatable characters and not shying away from tropes and using them where they may be useful. I know that we make fun of her a lot for Asa for potentially being autistic, but I will say that, wow, I'm actually autistic, right? I was officially diagnosed and everything. This is the most relatable female character I have ever experienced in manga. Like, I'm just gonna say that straight out. He might not have written her to be that way, but it doesn't matter because, you know, people who you don't expect can find escape or solace or representation in a character in ways that you didn't expect, right? That's part of the natural process of creating a well-rounded character who can appeal to a diverse audience and create a more inclusive environment for the manga. I know that sounds so cringe, but Asa really is an inclusive character, dude. Like, everybody likes her. I know that that word inclusive has gotten poisoned by certain groups of people, you know, saying things like go woke, go broke, which is in their mind, they just mean if anyone other than the majority group really likes your property, then it's gonna go broke. That is not the case with Chainsaw Man. He has given us female viewers everything we wanted in a female character, and the sales are going up, so that does not apply here. But Asa does bring balance to the story in a meta way. Of course, she brings balance narratively as well. She has the almost like an opposite personality to Denji, but similar struggles. She also brings balance in a meta way for us, the audience. She gives us another point of view to the whole situation going on in this story. And I don't want any writers who are watching this to think that, I keep saying it over and over, but I don't want any writers who are watching this story to just think that you must copy this character in order to write a good female character. Because when writers try to avoid pitfalls without proper planning, without proper understanding, they're going to end up doing the same thing they try to avoid, right? They create a flat, one-dimensional character that is built to pander to a very specific type of desire. And writers should never be beholden to the desires of their readers. Writers should first and foremost write for themselves and write to get a message across. But if you are constructing a story that you want to be enjoyed by a large amount of people, then it would be best, right? It would increase your chances of doing that and not have people, you know, complaining about the way you write certain types of characters. If you did put more thought into making a character well-rounded. Now, making a character well-rounded does not mean making them likable. It does not mean making them cool. Making a well-rounded character simply means making them fit realistically within the world and the narrative that you have constructed. Chainsaw Man is a manga that takes place, I think the 90s, or the early 2000s, I can't remember. Although it does have fantasy elements, the fantasy elements are not quite the main part of the story. The main part of the story is the interpersonal relationships and the interactions and the manipulation between people. So it makes sense that your main characters should be people, realistic people, relatable people, so that the audience can identify and relate to and understand the story better, since that is the world that the story was generated in, right? So those were just some of my scattered thoughts, right? I don't really pre-plan my videos aside from deciding on the topic of the video, right? In a few bullet points. I hope that all of that made sense. Asa, like I said, I think she might actually be the most relatable female character in manga right now. Certainly one of the best written of all time, I believe. I may be speaking out of turn there because, like I said, I did grow up on anime and manga, but as I got older, I became very picky with what I read. So I might not have all the context of every single character out there, but I really hope that manga writers, the next generation, because it seems like with every generation, the big animes are kind of getting better at writing characters. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. At least female characters. I shouldn't say all characters. So I hope that the next generation of the top manga writers take Fujimoto as their inspiration, as their personal inspiration. Because I really like where this character is going. I really like how Chainsaw Man is written, how it's drawn, how it's framed, how the panels look, right? I really like the way that he designs his characters. It sounds like I'm glazing so hard right now, but I just had to get this out here. I've been like, I don't know why, but I just kind of like sat down and I thought like, wow, this is a really insanely good character. Yeah, she might even be, I don't want to say it out loud, but I might like her more than Denji. It depends how the part 2 of Chainsaw Man, the Academy arc, finishes out. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Asa, and what you think about the way that Fujimoto handles his character writing. Yeah, like I said, try not to be toxic towards other manga writers. I'm sure many of them do not do it on purpose. They're just trying to make a buck. And some of them just have some natural deficiencies in writing types of characters that they personally can't relate to, which is not unique to manga. It's common across all writing throughout all history. So I just like to appreciate when I see a writer who makes a conscious effort to strengthen themselves where they might have been weak before. Okay? All right. Peace.